Everyone wants to work at Google, Meta, or even Amazon until they actually do. So don't get me wrong, the pay is great, the perks are shiny, who wouldn't want some free food, right? But the work is often draining, repetitive, and invisible. So let's talk about what no one tells you and how FAANG may not be the dream you think it is. It may actually be a fast track to burnout. So if you're new, my name is Zazo. I've been coding for over 10 years, and I've been in the tech industry for over 8 years. I've been a software engineer at a Fortune 100 company. I know a lot of people that have worked in big tech, and I've also been part of a couple startups. So here's the truth. At big tech companies, you're often just treated like another headcount, not an actual human. But at smaller companies, you may actually be an asset. And that difference, it shapes your career and your well-being. So let's start off with this big fantasy of FAANG and all the different things it offers, the big salaries, top tier benefits, and the global brand recognition. I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of these salaries are looking super great. However, a lot of these big tech companies are in places like California, where there's so much state tax that yes, it's a big salary, and yes, you can get compensation from stock and all that, but it's actually not always the salary that you see, right? It may be not as good as you think it is. When you're working for a big tech company like that, you gotta realize what you're surrounding yourself with. You're surrounding yourself with the best engineers, and you're just looked at as another one of those, and you're not actually seen as an asset. In FAANG companies, you're working on problems that are very hyper-focused. You rarely ever see the full product from end to end, and you actually have little say in any type of decision or direction of the company or any type of feature. You're just a gear in the machine, and if you leave, the machine will keep running. I had a buddy of mine tell me about something that he was working on, and he was literally just for 6 months working on some logging infrastructure, some very small things. And in between there, he was also tweaking some configuration files. And he said he did all this preparation, all this stressing for learning leak code, doing all these different things. And he got there, and yes, the salary was great, but the day-to-day was kind of draining him, and he became burnt out really quickly because he felt like he was doing tasks that had no real meaning. So with that, he spoke a lot about burnout, and burnout culture is huge in big tech. In big tech, there's high pressure, low control type of like vibe where you spend long hours solving such niche problems that don't feel impactful at all. You have endless meetings just talking about a bunch of jargon and a bunch of business stuff that actually fills up your calendar, and you're able to do very little work. And then when you do actually get to the work, it's so minute and so unimpactful that you just feel drained at the end of the day. Your code never really gets to see the light of day. You get stuck maintaining some type of legacy thing that nobody wants to touch. You always get the stuff that none of the seniors actually want to do, and they just pass it on. But the worst part about that is you're working so hard, but you actually stop feeling like it matters. So startups actually get a bad reputation for having long hours and, being super stressful, but actually the good ones give you something that most big tech companies don't, and that's ownership. You get to ship features and see how they're used immediately. Your work actually drives the product forward, and you're able to see all the fruits of your labor, and your opinion actually matters. When you go into these meetings, what you say actually matters. People take your word as, gold, and kind of see you as an asset, and actually being there to help the company go forward. When I was working in a startup with a couple buddies, I was working on the back end infrastructure, and just the type of stuff that like the conversation between that and kind of big tech, or just in my job right now is a big company as well, and just feeling like an asset and being able to kind of guide the direction of the company rather than being a cog in the wheel is kind of a big deal, and it's kind of, you know, invigorating. So when you like feel like you actually have ownership over the product and you're not just working, you're actually invested, that's more energizing and not so much draining or exhausting. So if your North Star is growth and not just survival, you need more than a FAANG badge on your resume. You need to make mistakes, be able to learn from them. You need to be able to solve problems across your stack, and you need to feel connected to the product. And it's really weird and ironic, but you actually get that more from a smaller company than you would from a trillion-dollar tech giant. And FAANG is going to look great on your resume, so I'm not saying you shouldn't aim for that. I'm just saying maybe not make it your North Star. So it's going to look great on your resume. It's going to get you probably more opportunities. But if you're looking for fulfillment, growth, and impact, then FAANG is probably not going to be the best for you. You're most likely going to get that from places where you actually matter and are not just another row in an org chart. So if you're chasing FAANG because you think it's a dream as far as you being able to work on such high, you know, great real problems and solve all these different problems, I'm sorry to tell you that's not the reality of FAANG in big tech. And you also just need to sit down with yourself and say, what kind of developer do you want to become? Do you actually want to be a skilled developer that can kind of take their knowledge and go anywhere and really become an asset? Or do you want to just be another cog in the wheel? Now, another thing that I will point out is, yes, you'll be making all this money, which if you work in FAANG, but you'll just feel on a day-to-day unfulfilled. And speaking to a lot of my friends that have worked in big tech, it leads to a lot of burnout and them just wanting to not even quit big tech. They just stop wanting to do software engineering because it's no longer fun and no longer gives them that joy. And yes, you can definitely survive and survive very well on the salaries, but are you really going to get any type of fulfillment in life? Considering working is, from the hours that you're awake, is a pretty good 50 to 40% of when you're awake most of the time. So that's what you'll be doing for that amount of time for the rest of your life, for a good chunk of your life. You want to be fulfilled or not. So I'm going to end the video here. This video wasn't to shit on FAANG or big tech at all, but I do want to give you guys kind of the reality of big tech and really get your mind thinking of, is big tech right for you and your goals, and give you kind of a peek behind the curtain. All right. So love, peace, and chicken grease. This is going to be the end of the video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.